You might have one and never thought twice about it. A tiny mole on your palm, your neck, near your lips, or resting quietly beneath your navel. It's just a dot, right? A little brown mark you've had for as long as you can remember. But what if that mole isn't just skin deep? What if it's been quietly whispering something about your destiny all along? Across centuries, face and body reading, especially in Eastern traditions, have seen moles not as flaws but as symbols. Keys, silent signals from the universe, etched into our skin before we were even born. Some of them point toward hidden fortune. Others are markers of resilience or gateways to blessings that arrive just when we need them most. In this video, we'll walk through 14 specific mole placements, real-life positions seen again and again in those who, against all odds, turned their lives around. Some won the lottery. Some built empires after years of struggle. Some found themselves at the right place, the right time, with the right people, without ever planning it. And you might be carrying one of these signs without knowing. This isn't about superstition, it's about awareness. About looking again at what your body may already be trying to tell you. So before we begin, pause for a second. Think of that mole you always ignored, or the one someone once called lucky, but you laughed it off. Maybe they were right. Let's begin. 1. The hand that holds wealth, mole in the palm. If there is one mole said to carry the clearest sign of lifelong prosperity, it is the one that lies in the center of the palm. Not on the fingers, not near the wrist, but right in the heart of the hand, where your lifeline, heart line, and head line seem to gather as if forming a secret chamber. This is not just any spot. In Eastern physiognomy and palmistry, this area is considered the bank vault of heaven, a sacred junction where all the currents of fortune meet. Those who bear a mole in this location often have an uncanny relationship with money, not just in receiving it, but in managing, growing, and protecting it over time. These are the people who seem to always land on their feet, even when life throws them unexpected storms. And more often than not, they are the ones who quietly accumulate wealth without ever chasing it loudly. The symbolism runs deep. Your palms are the part of your body that touches everything: money, food, loved ones, opportunities. It is the gateway between intention and action. When a mole is placed in its center, it suggests that the universe has trusted you with more than just the ability to earn. It has granted you the capacity to hold. That means financial intuition, emotional steadiness under risk, and most importantly, timing. People with this mole tend to know exactly when to act, when to wait, when to walk away. They do not invest impulsively. They do not spend to impress. They do not panic when others do. Instead, they move with a quiet confidence, turning small chances into lasting rewards. It's as if wealth seeks them out, not because they're lucky, but because they are trustworthy stewards of value. In Vietnamese tradition, we say some people are born with ban te gi letter 1 eif l letter 1 ed9c, the hand that holds fortune. Not everyone who touches gold can keep it. But those with this mark often don't just keep it, they multiply it. There is a calm logic to how they handle money and a deep-rooted respect for the flow of resources. They may not always have luxury, but they are rarely short on essentials. When they give wisely. When they save, it's with a purpose. Their energy is grounded, not in fear of losing, but in understanding what truly matters. A woman named Lan once came to a meditation circle hosted in Da Lat. She was 58, wore simple ao dai, and spoke with the quiet tone of someone used to listening more than speaking. During tea time, she revealed she had run a small flower farm for 30 years, never borrowed money, never took risks, yet somehow always had enough. She showed us her palm. Right in the center, a soft, faded mole the color of honey in morning light. She smiled. "I used to be embarrassed by it as a girl, but my grandmother told me, 'This is your rice jar, never let anyone empty it.' Lan never did. Even when prices dropped or weather failed her crops, she found ways to adapt, to preserve, to stay steady. That mole didn't make her rich overnight, but it helped her build a life of quiet abundance, rooted, self-sufficient, full of beauty. The mole in the palm is not a promise of wealth. It is a contract, one that requires integrity, patience, and alignment. If someone with this mark lives carelessly, chasing trends or gambling with greed, the energy of the mole can dim. But if they live mindfully, aligning action with wisdom, the mole begins to shine, quietly directing opportunities toward their hand like leaves carried by the wind. It is important to note, this placement often reveals its true power later in life. In youth, the person may feel ordinary, even unnoticed. But as others burn out or fall into patterns of waste, those with this mole begin to rise, not in flash, but in depth. Spiritually, the center of the palm is also linked to the heart's intent. What you grasp with your hand often mirrors what you desire deep within. If your palm carries this mark, you are being invited to hold with grace, not to clutch in fear, but to cradle with clarity. You were not born to live in scarcity. You were born to build a space of enough for yourself, your family, and even those around you. But like all blessings, it must be honored. One simple practice you can begin today. Each morning, open your hands before the sun and softly whisper, "I am a vessel for wise abundance." Feel the light touch your skin. Let it awaken what has long been sleeping. In the end, a mole in the palm is not about money alone. It's about readiness. Readiness to manage life's gifts. Readiness to carry others when needed. Readiness to grow slowly with care and to hold space for wealth that nourishes, not just buys. So if you find this mark on your hand, do not ignore it. Press your palm to your heart. Breathe. And know, what you've been searching for may already be resting in your grasp. 2. Heaven's door at the nape, mole on the back of the neck. There's a place on your body you rarely see, a quiet curve just beneath your hairline where the spine meets the skull. It's a soft, almost private space. And for some, it carries a mark, a small, dark mole tucked away where mirrors don't reach. You might have noticed it once while brushing your hair or felt it under your fingers without much thought. But that tiny mark right at the base of the neck carries an energy unlike any other. It is often called a symbol of invisible protection, a hidden gate where unseen forces quietly flow into your life. People with this mole rarely live fast or loud. They are not the type who chase after wealth or recognition. But time and again, their lives are shaped by mysterious timing, unexpected support, and moments that feel almost too precise to be random. A job offer that arrives just when money runs low. A stranger who becomes a lifelong ally. A door that opens when all others seem closed. This is the rhythm of those who carry the nape mole. They are not always ahead, but they are never left behind. Why this place? Because the back of the neck is where we carry what we can't see. Tension, memory, weight. It's also where we're most exposed, most vulnerable, and in some strange way, most spiritually sensitive. A mole here suggests that your life is not entirely your own to carry. That somewhere, somehow, you've been watched over. Maybe by an ancestor you never met. Maybe by life itself, balancing things when no one was looking. And often, the people who carry this mole are the ones who have quietly held families together, sacrificed without thanks, and kept walking when no one else did. They don't ask for help, but help finds them anyway. Take Jane, a retired nurse who once shared her story at a grief support group. She'd lost her husband early, raised 3 kids alone, and never had much money. But every time she thought she couldn't go on, something or someone showed up. A neighbor fixed her roof for free. Her boss gave her unexpected time off after her daughter's accident. A scholarship came through just days before her son's college deadline. "I don't know what it is," she said, "but it's like life has a way of catching me before I fall." She didn't know she had a mole on the back of her neck until a friend pointed it out during a massage. It made her smile. "Maybe I've been protected all along," she whispered. "That's the quiet power of this mole. It doesn't promise riches, it offers reassurance. It tells you you're not alone, you've never been. But like all sacred signs, this one comes with a choice. You can ignore it, brush it off as coincidence. Or you can choose to live as if you are supported, not with arrogance, but with calm. You don't need to force every outcome. You don't need to win every battle. Trust becomes your currency. Patience your path. If you carry this mark, you might notice you don't do well with chaos. You crave peace. Your body tenses around conflict. That's because your energy isn't built for fight, it's built for flow. You're here not to conquer life, but to cooperate with it. And often that begins by listening. Listening to your timing, your gut. That quiet pause before you say yes or no. So what can you do if you have this mole? Start with a daily ritual. Each morning, gently place your hand at the base of your neck. Close your eyes, take one deep breath and say softly, "I am held, I am seen, I am safe." You don't need to know who's watching over you. It's enough to know you are. Because in the end, this mole is not about destiny in the dramatic sense. It's not about winning the lottery or becoming famous. It's about being guided. It's about the small, almost invisible ways life moves in your favor, quiet as a feather landing on your shoulder. And if you've carried this mark all these years without knowing, maybe that's the greatest proof of all. 3 words that weave fortune: mole at the corner of the mouth. It's barely noticeable. Just a small, dark fleck near the corner of your lips. You might have covered it with makeup for years, or maybe you've never really paid attention. But in the quiet science of facial energy reading, that tiny mole near your mouth is anything but ordinary. It's often seen as a sign of someone whose words carry weight, someone whose voice, quite literally, shapes their destiny. There's a power in speech we often forget. The way a well-timed phrase can open a heart. The way a gentle tone can dissolve tension. Some people are born with this gift, a natural ability to speak in a way that others trust, follow, and remember. And when that gift is marked by a mole at the corner of the mouth, it's as if life has underlined the message. Your voice is valuable. Use it well. People with this mole tend to succeed in subtle yet profound ways. They may not be the loudest in the room, but when they speak, others pause. Their words are often simple but sincere, clear without being cold, persuasive without being manipulative. They don't just talk, they connect. And that connection is where the magic lives. Whether in business, family, or community, they often attract support, opportunities, and abundance not through force, but through resonance. They know how to say the right thing at the right moment, sometimes without even trying. But this isn't just about charisma, it's about alignment. When your inner voice matches your outer voice, your words gain energy. People feel that. And those with this mole are often naturally aligned in that way. Their speech carries a kind of quiet integrity. It comforts, it motivates, it brings clarity. Of course, like all gifts, this one comes with responsibility. Words can heal, but they can also wound. And those with this mark must be mindful not to let frustration turn into sarcasm or truth into cruelty. The same mouth that can speak life into someone can also do harm if used carelessly. That's why emotional regulation is so essential for people with this mole. Their words ripple further than most. A comment made in anger might echo longer than they realize. But when they speak with intention, when they choose honesty wrapped in kindness, they often find themselves surrounded by people who want to listen, want to help, and want to grow. I once met a woman named Ellen during a storytelling retreat. She had this mole, just a soft dot near the left side of her mouth. She spoke with ease, like she wasn't trying to impress anyone, but what she said stayed with you. One night during a group circle, she shared a simple line. Sometimes the gentlest words carry the most weight. The room fell silent. It wasn't what she said, it was how she said it. Grounded, calm, true. By the end of the weekend, everyone gravitated toward her. Not because she talked the most, but because her presence felt trustworthy. Later, I learned she had spent decades working in conflict resolution, quietly helping people find peace through conversation. That's the kind of influence this mole can carry. It shows up in therapists, teachers, counselors, spiritual mentors, people who don't demand authority but earn it, people who know that sometimes one sentence can shift a life. But the abundance linked to this mark isn't only emotional, it can be financial too. People with this mole often find their income, opportunities, or recognition tied to communication. They thrive in fields that involve speaking, writing, advising, coaching, selling, even singing. Their voice, literal or metaphorical, is the bridge between their inner gift and the world. When they trust it, when they refine it, it becomes a source of both livelihood and purpose. So what does this mean for you if you have this mole? It means your voice matters, that your words aren't just sounds, they're seeds. Each one planted in the ears, hearts, and minds of those around you. Speak with care, speak with truth, and speak with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you were given this gift for a reason. Here's a small practice you can begin today. Each morning before you speak your first word, pause, place your fingers gently near your lips, take a deep breath, and say silently, "May my words bring peace. May my voice carry truth. May my speech honor who I am." Then go into your day, not trying to be profound, but simply aware. Aware that every conversation is a choice, that every sentence is a thread in the fabric of your life. And if someone ever told you to be quiet, to not speak up, to hide your thoughts or feelings, remember this. The universe put a mark by your mouth, not to silence you, but to remind you. You were born to say something meaningful, even if it's only a whisper, even if it's only once. Because sometimes the most powerful voice is the one that knows exactly when to speak. 4. The shoulder that carries gold mole on the shoulder. It's not a glamorous place, not like the eyes or the lips where attention naturally lands. The shoulder is a working part of the body, practical, often tense, almost always under strain. And yet when a mole appears on one or both shoulders, it speaks of something powerful, a life built not on spotlight but on quiet strength. A path paved not with luck, but with endurance. If you carry this mark, chances are you've carried a lot more than that. People with a mole on the shoulder often walk through life with more responsibilities than others. They're the dependable ones, the ones who stay after the meeting to clean up, the ones who remember birthdays, pay bills on time, and hold their families together when no one else can. They may not complain. In fact, they rarely do. But behind their calm smile is a story of quiet resilience. This mole doesn't promise ease. It doesn't belong to the effortlessly lucky. It belongs to the builders, the doers, the souls who chose growth over comfort, often long before they knew the cost. They're the people who carried siblings, parents, children, sometimes all at once. And somehow through it all they stayed upright. But here's the gift hidden in that weight. This mole is a symbol of gold, not flashy wealth, not sudden fortune. but steady, lasting value. Over time, the shoulders that bore burdens often become the ones that carry blessings. Financial stability, emotional wisdom, trusted leadership. These people may not rise quickly, but they rise well. Because their foundation is strong, tested. True, the energy of the shoulder is linked to responsibility, but also to direction. It's where we turn, where we lean, where we place bags, lift children, support others. A mole here indicates that your life has never been passive. You were never just a passenger, even if you were quiet, even if you felt unseen. You have always been steering something, sometimes for yourself, sometimes for others. In spiritual terms, this mole is often connected to karmic work. You may have come into this life with tasks to complete, debts to clear, cycles to close, but rather than being punished, you were entrusted. Trusted to handle things others could not. Trusted to walk through difficulty and emerge wiser, softer, more whole. I remember a woman named Claire who ran a small antique shop in a coastal town. Her days were quiet, slow. But when she spoke about her past, you could feel the weight she had carried. She had raised her younger siblings after her parents passed, worked 3 jobs in her 20s, nursed her husband through illness, and never once asked, "Why me?" When I asked what kept her going, she touched her right shoulder and said, "There's a mole here. I used to hate it, thought it made me look imperfect. But now, I think it's the mark that helped me carry what I had to." And what she carried turned to gold. Not in a dramatic, lottery ticket kind of way, but in the richness of relationships, in the steadiness of her life, in the deep respect others had for her without ever saying it out loud. That's what this mole can bring, long-term security. The kind that comes from being trustworthy. The kind that leads to late-in-life breakthroughs, inheritances, property, well-earned retirement, business growth, or simply peace. Often, the rewards for people with this mark don't show up until midlife or later. But when they do, they come with depth, with meaning, with the quiet satisfaction of knowing I made it through. And now it's time to receive. But like all sacred marks, this one also carries a warning. The weight must be chosen, not forced. People with this mole often fall into the trap of over-responsibility, carrying what isn't theirs, saying yes too often, pushing themselves past the edge. And when they do, the gift of the mole turns against them. They become exhausted, resentful, closed off. That's why boundaries are essential for those with this placement. Saying no isn't selfish, it's survival, it's wisdom. So if you find a mole on your shoulder, here's your invitation. Reflect on what you've carried. Honor your effort. But also ask, what can I put down now? What weight is no longer mine? Begin a simple practice. Each evening, place your hand gently on your shoulder. Breathe deeply. And whisper, what I carry with strength. What I release with peace. Let that be your rhythm. Let that be your healing. This mole is not about struggle, it's about strength. Not about proving your worth, but recognizing that it's already been proven. You don't have to carry everything forever. But if you've carried enough to earn this mark, you've earned the right to rest, to receive, to rise. And when someone looks at your shoulder, maybe one day while you're wearing something sleeveless or resting in the sun, and sees that small mark, smile. Because that little mole is a medal, a quiet gold, and it belongs exactly where it is. 5. Where earth speaks, moles on the chin and below the navel. Some people were born to chase the sky, but others, perhaps you were born to anchor, to root, to hold stillness in a world that rarely slows down. And if you carry a mole on your chin or just below your navel, that is likely your path. Not flashy, not dramatic, but profoundly stable like the earth itself. Let's begin with the chin. In the study of facial energy, the chin represents foundation. It speaks to how you hold structure in your life, Your home, your family, your long-term vision. A mole on the chin is a gentle but firm signature from life. You are meant to build something that lasts. These are the people who create security, not only for themselves but for others. They may not always lead with ambition, but they lead with steadiness. They are the kind of souls who stay in one job for decades, who grow their wealth slowly through patience, who keep traditions alive when the world forgets them. Their strength lies not in risk, but in rhythm. If you carry this mole, chances are you've always been a planner, someone who thinks 10 steps ahead, someone who understands that the most important things, trust, savings, a solid marriage, take time. You might not have had a wild youth, but you've built a beautiful present. And as you move into the later chapters of life, your investments, financial, emotional, spiritual, are finally bearing fruit. Now shift your attention to the area just below your navel. This part of the body is often overlooked, but in ancient systems of body wisdom, it's considered sacred, the center of vitality, the root of physical and emotional grounding. And when a mole appears here, it signals someone with deep inner strength and an unshakable sense of self. These people may go unnoticed in a crowd, but they never feel lost. Their sense of who they are comes from within, not from trends or opinions. Financially, this mole suggests long-term success through quiet accumulation, not gambling, not get-rich-quick schemes, but saving, protecting, preserving. These are the people who retire debt-free, who pass homes down to their children, who buy land not for status but to build a legacy. They understand the quiet power of waiting, and more than that, they know how to hold space for others. Many people with this mole become the emotional anchors in their families. They are the ones who host holidays, who keep the peace, who remember birthdays and hold the photo albums. Their wealth isn't just in money, it's in memory, in presence, in the kind of dignity that only grows with age. But this gift, too, requires balance. People with grounding moles can sometimes become too rigid, too attached to plans, too unwilling to adapt when life changes. That's the shadow side of stability. It can turn into resistance. And when that happens, even the strongest foundations can crack. That's why flexibility is essential. You can still be rooted and open. Still be consistent without being controlling. I once met a woman named Margaret, a retired librarian with a deep mole at the center of her chin. She lived in the same house for 40 years, drove the same car until it gave out, kept her garden in perfect rows. Her neighbors called her the oak tree. At first, she laughed at the nickname, but eventually she embraced it. "I think I was born to hold things steady," she said. "In my life, everything else moved, I just stayed." She wasn't wealthy in the traditional sense, but she had everything she needed. More importantly, she was everything someone else needed: reliable, honest, unshakable. And when she passed, her 3 grandchildren each found a letter in her handwriting, tucked into the pages of their favorite childhood book. That is the kind of legacy people with these moles leave behind: quiet, personal, enduring. If you have one of these marks, know this: your presence is a gift. Your ability to stay, to build, to preserve, it matters. Not everyone is meant to race. Some are meant to remember. Some are meant to hold the line. So what can you do to honor these marks? Start by trusting your timing. Stop comparing your pace to anyone else's. Your journey is rooted. Let it unfold slowly. Secondly, simplify where you can. Your power comes from clarity. The less clutter in your home, your mind, your relationships, the stronger you become. And finally, take care of your body, especially your lower abdomen. Nourish it, strengthen it. It's the home of your intuition, your vitality, your quiet power. Each morning, as you rise, place your hands gently on your lower belly. Breathe deeply and say, "I am grounded, I am guided, I grow with grace." Then go about your day with the assurance that you are building something lasting. One choice, one step, one rooted moment at a time. And if you ever wonder whether your quiet life matters, whether your simple routines, your steady presence, your long years of holding space are enough, look at the mole on your chin. Or feel for the mark below your navel. These are not accidents. They are invitations to slow down, to stay present, to remember that not all wealth is loud. Sometimes the richest life is the one that feels like home. 6. The path that opens moles on the temple and chest. Some lives are meant to bloom later, and some people, perhaps you, carry signs not of what they've already built, but of what they're still being called to step into. If you have a mole on your temple or your chest, you may feel that calling deep down. A quiet urge to move, to grow, to finally claim the space you once gave up. These marks are about expansion, not just outward, but inward. They appear on people whose greatest chapters are often written in the second half of life. Let's begin with the temple. The temple sits just between the eyes and the ear. Symbolically, it bridges vision and hearing, intuition and understanding. When a mole appears here, it's often a sign of forward motion. These individuals are rarely content staying in one place too long. They're drawn to new environments, new people, new challenges. They might not have moved far in their youth, but something in them always wondered, what else is out there? And later in life, they often begin to answer that question with travel, relocation, career reinvention, or spiritual growth. This mole also represents clarity of purpose. People with this mark often see the bigger picture. They understand timing. They know when to say yes, and just as importantly, when to walk away. They are strategic by nature. They may not always be loud leaders, but they lead by example through bold choices and quiet integrity. Now consider the chest. The chest is home to the heart, yes, but also to courage, to values, to inner fire. A mole here suggests a life driven not just by comfort, but by conviction. These are the people who can't sit still when something feels wrong, who take risks when the cause is right, who protect what they love with fierce devotion. When both the temple and chest carry moles, the message is clear. You were never meant to shrink. You may have spent decades putting others first, raising children, supporting partners, managing responsibilities. You may have silenced your dreams, telling yourself maybe later. But these marks are reminders that later has come, that your desires were never selfish, that your story deserves space. People with these moles often experience a major turning point after the age of 50. Sometimes it's external, a new career, a move across the country, a spiritual awakening. Sometimes it's internal, a moment of truth where they finally say, I'm ready to live for me. And when they step into that energy, life responds, doors open, resources appear. The right people show up, not because of luck, but because they stopped hiding. Susan, a former high school principal, once shared with me that after retiring at 62, she moved to the coast, took up watercolor painting, and began writing essays for a local newsletter. For 30 years, I followed the rule book, she said. But this mole on my chest, it's my reminder that I've still got things to say, and now I say them. Her second act wasn't about proving anything, it was about becoming more herself. This is what these moles unlock, expansion with soul. Not expansion for ego or comparison or validation, but for fulfillment, for truth, for a sense of this is who I am and I'm finally living it. And yes, there's often material abundance linked to these marks as well. Not through struggle, but through alignment. People with these moles do best when they follow energy that feels alive. They often thrive in later-in-life ventures, consulting, teaching, publishing, coaching, advocacy. Their wealth comes from stepping into their voice, their vision, their passion, not in their 20s, but when they're ready. But as with all sacred signs, there's a caution too. The shadow side of expansion is burnout. These people can get caught in doing too much, especially if they're trying to prove themselves. They can overextend, overpromise, and overwork. That's why the key is not speed but direction, not volume but alignment. The question is not how much can I do, but what am I truly meant to do now? If you carry one of these moles, begin by asking, where have I outgrown my life? What dreams did I shelve? What parts of myself have I ignored? And more importantly, what am I willing to make room for now? Try this practice. Stand in front of a mirror each morning. Place one hand gently over your chest, the other over your temple. Close your eyes, take a slow breath and whisper, I trust the path that opens, I walk it with courage. Then move into your day with the awareness that life is not done unfolding, not by a long shot. These moles don't promise ease, but they offer something better, invitation, to step forward, to try again, to live like you mean it. And if someone ever tells you it's too late, that you've missed your moment, touch the spot where that tiny mole lives. Smile softly. And know, some paths only open when the soul is finally ready. 7. High marks of destiny. Moles on the forehead, nose, and cheekbone. Some marks don't whisper. They shine. If you have a mole on your forehead, the tip of your nose, or on your cheekbone, you may have already sensed this. You were born with a presence, a kind of quiet authority, a natural ability to see the big picture, to stay calm when others panic, to lead even when you never asked to. These moles are often called the high marks of destiny for a reason. They sit on the parts of the face most associated with visibility, leadership, intuition, and influence. And they don't appear by accident. Let's begin with the forehead. The forehead represents foresight, clarity, and spiritual alignment. It's the canvas of vision. A mole here, especially near the center or hairline, suggests someone who was born with strategic thinking and a strong moral compass. These people often have a deep sense of purpose, even from a young age. They may not always follow a traditional path, but they're rarely lost. Their lives unfold like blueprints. They plan ahead. They anticipate. They build not just for the moment, but for the future. If this is your mark, you're likely someone others come to for guidance. Not because you claim to have all the answers, but because your way of thinking brings calm and clarity. You see the long road. You trust the process. You don't get caught in small drama. You keep your eyes on the horizon. Now consider the tip of the nose. This is the seat of financial instinct. A mole here suggests someone with sharp awareness around money, planning, and decisions. These people often do well in business or investment, not because they chase risk, but because they understand it. They know how to weigh the pros and cons, when to move and when to hold. They're not gamblers, they're stewards. Their wealth may grow slowly at first, but once it takes root, it builds real security. But more than that, people with this mole tend to trust their own judgment. They don't need validation from the crowd. They know what feels right and they act on it. This is their gift, discernment. And in a world full of noise, it's a rare and powerful trait. Now the cheekbone. This is where strength lives. A mole here, whether left or right, often signals someone born with leadership energy. Not dominance, but direction. These are the people who take initiative, who rise through action, who carry not just their own vision, but often the weight of others' trust. They may find themselves in positions of influence even when they didn't seek them. And they usually handle it with grace. They're the ones who stay steady when plans fall apart, who make decisions others can't, who carry the silent pressure of being the strong one in families, teams, and communities. If this is you, chances are You felt both the burden and the honor of being relied on. When these three marks appear, forehead, nose, and cheekbone, they often belong to people walking a path of mastery, not perfection, but evolution. They are old souls, builders, visionaries, and while life doesn't always come easily for them, it often unfolds with deep meaning. Their wins are earned, their respect is genuine, their wisdom is lived, not borrowed. But like all powerful energies, these marks come with their own cautions. People with visible leadership energy often carry silent pressure. They may feel they can never show weakness, that they always have to hold it together. And over time, that can become lonely. That's why emotional support and inner reflection are essential. Just because you're capable doesn't mean you must carry everything alone. True leadership includes receiving, includes rest, includes softness. Another shadow, pride. These individuals are often right, and they know it. But if confidence turns into inflexibility, they can push away help, ignore feedback, or lose touch with their own humanity. That's why humility is their balancing force. When they lead with both strength and openness, they become not just respected, but beloved. So if you carry one of these high marks, know this: you were never meant to follow. You were meant to guide, not necessarily through titles or power or control, but through presence, through example, through quiet impact. Start honoring that gift with a small daily practice. Each morning, stand before the mirror. Look into your own eyes. Place your fingers gently on the area of your mole, be it your forehead, your nose, or your cheek. Breathe deeply and say, "I lead with vision, I act with wisdom, I grow with grace." Then move through your day remembering. Influence is not how many follow you. It's how deeply you live your truth. And if you ever doubt whether you're making a difference, look in the mirror again. Your mark is already there. You've been carrying your path all along. Final. At the end of all this, after the marks, the meanings, the stories, it comes down to something simple. Not the mole itself, not what it promises, but how gently you are willing to pay attention to your own life. You've spent years tending to others, solving things, fixing, giving, folding laundry while your mind wandered to everyone else's needs, making sure the house stayed warm, making sure no one noticed how tired you were. And yet somewhere on your skin, quiet, patient, unchanging, was a mark, a dot, a small point of light the universe left behind, not to impress you, not to define you, but to remind you that your life holds meaning even when it feels ordinary, that your presence changes more than you realize, that something in you has always been guided, even when you didn't feel it. Maybe that mole was never about luck at all. Maybe it was about presence, about seeing what's always been there, not in the mirror, but in the way you love, the way you endure, the way you quietly lead and soften and remain. So tonight before bed, as the house stills and the world pulls its weight away from your shoulders, pause. Turn your face gently toward the mirror. No makeup, no lighting, just you. And ask, what has my body been trying to tell me that I was finally ready to hear?